Welcome to Storytellers, the podcast where we hear the tales and journeys of inspiring members and supporters of NSA Houston. I'm your host, Beth Rohani, and here everyone has a unique story. So let's get nice and cozy as we spotlight our next storyteller. Lethia, I am so excited to have you on the show. You are a powerhouse. Thank you for joining us. We're excited to hear your personal triumphs and just your journey and overall just wanting to learn more about you and your story. So let's start maybe with your triumphs. Tell us a little bit more about your triumphs and what shaped your journey to get to where you are today.
Oh, wow. I would, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for having me here. I am super duper excited about speaking to the Houston chapter. I love Houston. One of my favorite restaurants is in Houston, and I'm so excited to come back and to share. I count it a great honor to have the opportunity to share my experience, my wisdom, my brilliance, just the things that I've learned with others, because I know that I get to walk through doors that I didn't open. So you asked the question about one of my triumph stories, and I want to start with my personal triumph story. Beth, I'm not supposed to be here. I mean, the odds were less than 4% that I would be sitting in this seat doing what it is that I'm doing today. Actually, I think less than 4% if you count the fact that I'm a professional speaker. But I was a teen mom, and therefore I had to drop out of high school for a period of time. And there were people, even my high school teacher, Mr. Wilder, he looked at me when I told him I was dropping out and said, "You'll never amount to anything. I wouldn't be surprised if you ended up selling blow or ended up on welfare for the rest of your life." And that was the perception that people had of who I would become. But because I heard my mother, when I was just a little girl, tell me, "You were born for greater." And every time, Beth, I have faced adversity, I hear it in the back of my mind, "You were born for greater. You were born for greater." And it gives me this fuel that I need to keep pressing forward and to keep believing. And anyone who's listening to this interview knows, as a professional speaker, coach, consultant, there are days when you want to just quit and go smile and wave at Walmart. I know you probably felt that, where you're like, "You know what? I've had enough. This is for the birds. I am going to do something much easier." And I often joke with my husband when it gets tough. I'm like, "Look, I'm about to go apply for Walmart so I can smile and wave." And he's like, "Well, can you at least apply at Microsoft?" But being able to really, tap into my internal motivation after finding myself in that very difficult situation, being a teen mom, I looked at my daughter's eyes and I tell her today, "You saved my life." Because when I looked into her eyes, I realized she didn't ask to be here. And I cannot curse her with the same lifestyle of being born into poverty and living in poverty for the rest of her life. And that's, Beth, when I went to a straight A student. I went back to school. My mother quit her day job and got a job at night so that I could go back to school. And that was not easy, but it is probably one of my proudest personal triumphs. Even, all the things I've done, even raising my kids and all the other wonderful things that I've done, that's probably one of the things that I'm most proud of, because of how much I had to tap into my inner belief system.
And let me just stop you right there. That is so powerful, because there are things that we hold in us as children that impact us as children that are forever part of our character and how we are defined. And for you to remember that moment every time you question your abilities just fuels you to be able to keep going and pushing forward and not giving up. And that resiliency is so powerful.
It actually translates, or it relates to even one of my professional triumphs, right? So I'm talking to an audience of speakers and coaches. You all know what it's like to build from the ground up. When you first decided you wanted to become a professional speaker, one of the first things we think about is, how are we going to get the word out? How are we going to, tell people who we are and what we do, so that they are excited about booking us to work with them? And I use that same, you were born for greater, to do the extra work, to take the extra course. I was in corporate America while preparing to launch my speaking business. And the idea that I was born for greater than the work I was doing in corporate. I'd been mentored by a VP, Dixie Axley at State Farm Insurance Company for 2 years. I was on the fast path to senior management. They had a special program. And Dixie was mentoring me. And she told me, I want you to go become a certified coach. I want you to go speak here. And she started sending me out into the company to speak at different places. And 2 years later, she sat me down, Beth, and said, Lethia, you are bigger than any opportunity State Farm could ever afford you. You were meant to speak, to teach, to write books, and to change the world. And I said to myself, is this how they fire people nowadays? Am I being fired today? I couldn't even hear the magnitude of what she was saying because I thought she was firing me, you know? And when she kept talking and kept sharing, I realized, no, I am being groomed for a position far greater than the one that I thought I was being groomed for within State Farm. I was being groomed for my purpose, and the momentum from Dixie Axley's coaching and her actions to really create a trajectory where I took everything I'd learned in IT as an IT leader and as an IT professional, and I used it to create a market domination blueprint that I still use today. And that blueprint positioned me so that I was everywhere, Beth. And I'm just actually actually revamping my brand. So I'm getting ready to use that same blueprint again to get my message out there. But several years into my speaking career, I got an email saying that I was ranked number 8 among the top 30 brand gurus in the world. And 225,000 people voted. And that's where I landed. And basically, I want to share that. It's not to brag because, that is far from my character, my personality, but I want the speakers listening who are trying to figure out, how am I going to, grow my business? How am I going to get my message out there? It is possible with the right strategy, with the right actions, and with the motivation and determination to stick with it until it comes to fruition. You can grow to being known by 225,000 people, to become the best, being known as one of the best at what it is that you do.
When you say that it is essentially something that gets developed over time, it seems like it's the people who impact you, that story that originally was formed to give you that fuel to continue to go. And so for you, and maybe even for our listeners, the power of storytelling is so important when creating who you are, your identity, because ultimately that helps people build trust, and that allows people to understand that that experience has formed you. And so it's true to what it is that you're teaching or you are speaking about. So I know storytelling is an art, and by now you've mastered it. How do you believe that it impacts people's lives?
We are human beings having an experience on this planet, and storytelling is a powerful art form. It is also glue that allows us to come together and to stick together and to find commonality with each other. It is through the telling of stories that we find that we're not alone, that we have more in common with others than we would think. So when we tell our stories, we are actually giving other people permission. We're liberating them to accept who they are and what they've gone through, because when they hear our stories, they realize they're not alone, that there are more people like them who've experienced things that they've experienced. And I think storytelling has the unique power to move people in a way that facts do not, right? It can make people feel understood, inspired, connected. Storytelling is a powerful transformational tool. that speakers and leaders can use to help people move forward past their obstacles, past their disbelief, past their doubts, past their discouragement, past even their depression. And so I just want to encourage our listeners as they think about growing their business and their practice, if they're not currently leveraging the power of stories, I want to encourage them to realize that it is a tool that would benefit greatly from learning how to use and to master and to leverage to shape the transformation in lives of other people.
One word that comes to mind when you just express all of that is vulnerability. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to push yourself, and that's what I'm hearing from this, is that you have to be able to push yourself out of your comfort zone and put yourself in a place to where you do have to tell that story. And, when you say you get out there and you tell these things and people relate to you,
Mm-hmm.
I just recently went through a 2.5 year divorce, and this was from a 26-year relationship marriage, my high school sweetheart. And,
Mm-hmm.
to the very last day, I loved him. And, but it was just something that I had to do for myself. All my 20s, all my 30s, all my 40s, well, half of my 40s, I've been with this person. I never had my own identity. It was never independent. It was always codependent. And I
Mm-hmm.
always questioned the confidence and all of that. And so I decided that when I was going to go through my divorce, I was going to go public with it because I'm a business owner and people know me. And so I wanted to tell my own story. And I didn't know getting out there and being vulnerable and talking about my divorce, which was something that, obviously you don't want to happen, especially with me. My parents are about to celebrate 50 years. In your experience, you talked about the legacy with your grandkids and being able to have that. And that's what we all dream of. And I didn't want to fail. I'm a winner. I love winning. But when I got out there and I started telling the story, the genuine story, the authentic, people resonated with it in such a different way than if I was to just say, oh, this is going to be a lesson. This is going to be a workshop of some sort that I'm just going to teach and think that people are going to gain value from it, because that value ultimately comes from that story. But that was very empowering when you talked about storytelling and just getting out of your comfort zone and telling your story, because it empowers the way people are able to express themselves in a different way too. The perspective is valuable.
Yes, absolutely. And Beth, I have to say this. It's so, I have to say this. Just like with art, just like with art, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So as you tell your story, not everyone is going to resonate with it. Not everyone is going to like it, because you're not here to serve everyone. You are here to serve a select group of people. And when you are authentic and committed to telling your story in truth and authenticity, you are so much more powerful, because the people who have been waiting on you will be helped, transformed, healed, blessed, better, right? So I just wanted to share that, because I want our listeners to know that not everyone is going to be excited about the story that you tell, but the people that you're called to serve, they'll be forever grateful for the story that you must tell.
It shows how that vulnerability, that storytelling, that journey forces us to go through significant challenges as we pave the way to where we get to where we can be confident of ourselves. We can be empowered by that story that we're telling. And in some ways, I think timing is really important, because ultimately, when I was going through the divorce, maybe it wasn't the right time to sit there and talk about it. But now that the divorce is finished, I'm not protecting that moment in time, and it does allow me to become braver to talk about it. So everything that you're saying, it's resonating with me and I love it. And I cannot wait for you to come and visit us in November and give us extra bits and pieces of your life and your journey. And so just to understand you a little bit better, throughout this time, what was one of the most significant challenges that you felt like you had to go through and navigate through to be able to get to where you are?
When Mr. Wilder told me that I would never amount to anything, it changed me. And unfortunately, I spent most of my life trying to prove him wrong, meaning I showed up in a way that wasn't authentically who I am. I would show up and take over in meetings, and I was constantly trying to prove to people that I was enough. The words of Mr. Wilder, there was so much anger and resentment for what he had said to me, and I didn't believe him, but I I felt like I had to prove to he and all the other Mr. Wilders in the world that what they thought of me and what they saw was not true. And so I was overcompensating by becoming this aggressive, dominating, some people would call the behavior angry Black woman syndrome, right? And I wasn't showing up in a way that was in alignment with who I really am as a person. People would get to know me and say, hmm, you're very different than who I thought you were when I first met you, type of thing. And so I'll just share that I had to overcome my feelings of not being enough, that who I am is enough, that what I do, what I'm doing is enough. I don't have anything to prove to anyone. If anything, I just have to prove to myself that I am capable of becoming the woman that I was created to be. That's the only thing I really need to prove, is that I can become that woman that I was created to be. And so I think my biggest challenge has been, I mean, Beth, I'm gonna be very transparent and say, I bought houses and cars and things I couldn't afford trying to impress people I didn't even like. And I've sacrificed so much of myself to try to prove something to other people that didn't need to be proved in the first place. And as a speaker and as a coach, having done that inner work, I'm now able to see it so clearly in other people. Because what it looks like in coaching and in speaking, when you don't realize you're enough, what it looks like is you're on. You are showing up as this person. Today, we're going to share 3 ways that you can become your best self, versus saying, I was tempted to quit today. And I'm going to tell you why. When you live the life that I live and you're constantly believing that there's greatness inside of you, there are going to be days when you just kind of forget that that's true. And you're going to think, who was I to think that I could write a book? Who was I to think that I can stand in front of 5,000 people and give a speech? And those are the days that you're going to have to really tap into the 3 things that I'm going to share with you today. See how that version of me was very different than the I'm on and I'm going to share with you 3 things today. When I do come to Houston, I can't teach without talking about branding. And so we're going to talk a little bit about branding and the authenticity that's required to build a truly magnetic brand. And it really is just being yourself. So there are going to be people who are going to watch this video and they're going to fall in love with me because I'm just being myself. And there are going to be some people who beauty is in the eye of the beholder. They're going to be like, she's not my cup of tea. And that's okay. That's okay, right? Because I'm not going to be the perfect piece of art for everyone.
One of the things that I noticed is with speakers, when we try to become somebody else, people don't listen. People can see it. People can tell that you're not being genuine. And that's more off-putting these days than it is anything else, because all you're seeing out there is be genuine, be yourself, be authentic. And from what I'm seeing of you, this whole journey of your life has been this like road of self-discovery, this road of finding that confidence of people that tried to break you down. And you were like, I'm not giving this a second thought. This is not even an option. And I am pushing past this. And just little by little, each win allowed to give you the confidence that you need. And so, what I'm hearing in terms of significant challenges, it's not just the one thing that you're dealing with, right? Because every day there's challenges. But ultimately, those challenges, there's a bigger picture, there's a bigger layer of what that actually is. And it's in your case, what I'm hearing is finding your authentic self and gaining that confidence to empower you to now influence others. And I've heard a couple of people
Mhm.
that you mentioned who were your role models, but just share with me, who are some of your role models that you have inspired you to be successful in life that you feel like you need to share?
I'd love to share. I have two very important role models. One is my mom. This woman didn't have a high school education. Like she didn't graduate from high school, and she had earned a position as a bookkeeper. So to not have a high school diploma and then be a bookkeeper was like a big deal, right? She quit that job and became a security guard so I could go back to high school. Like I am forever grateful for the sacrifice that that woman made. And I tell people all over the world that I get to stand before you today because of a game changer named Flora Lewis. And she made a game changing move that forever changed my life. I had a boyfriend in high school who, my junior year, said, "You need to take the SAT. You need to go to college." And I'm like, "I'm not going to college. Nobody in my family have ever gone to college. We don't have money for college." And he came from a family of educators. And so he said, "No, you're really smart. You should go to college." And so it came time to take the SAT. Well, actually, for a year and a half, he had me, studying for the SAT. Every time I would say, "Would you take me to the mall?" He would say, "Yeah, after you study for the SAT." And I'm like, so I studied for the SAT. So my boyfriend paid for the SAT test. Long story short, I never applied to college, but got a full ride because I had a near perfect SAT score. They came to my school, pulled me out of class, and offered me a scholarship. I often say to people, I'm no dumb chick. I married that handsome hunk of chocolate, and we've been married for now over 31 years.
It's an amazing journey that we've heard of, and we are so excited that you're coming in on November 17th to see our organization and our chapter here in Houston. I know one of the big things that I've learned about as I've started becoming a little bit more involved is CSP. I know you have your CSP designation, and so I'd love to hear how you got it and was it difficult to get, or just kind of tell the listeners a little bit more about, and the viewers a little bit more about the CSP designation.
My answer is according to the world of Lethia Owens. Okay. My thought is if you're going to do anything, aspire to be the best at it. I try to find and work with the best coaches that I can afford. I wanted to become a part of NSA because if I'm going to be a speaker, why not be a part of the official association that is connected to that industry? So that was a no-brainer. And then if a CSP is a designation that the highest designation you can earn, why not strive for it? So for me, it was just a part of how I do life. And I want to be the best at what I do. And I decided that I would earn my CSP as a way of proving to myself that I was on track and doing the things that I needed to do to excel in this industry. But I believe that it's just part of striving to be the best that you can be within, the work that you're doing. So I believe that all speakers should strive to earn the CSP because it's just a demonstration of your desire to be the best, even if it doesn't get you more speaking gigs, but just to inspire the next generation of speakers. I think it's important.
Was it difficult to get?
If you don't keep good records, it is excruciating. So I think it's very difficult if you don't plan for and prepare to apply and you're not keeping good records. But if you keep good records and you're using e-speakers the way it's meant to be used, it'll be a breeze. And I think it for me it wasn't that difficult either because I had so many supporters. Like I had people rallying around me to help me wherever I was lacking. Okay, so you're concerned about your video. Okay, let me see a video of you speaking. I'll critique it for you before you turn it in. I had all kinds of support and help. So I think if you let people know that you are working towards it, you'll get more support than you could have even ever imagined.
Those are some amazing tips and very, very valuable. And I want our viewers and our listeners to take that away because really it sounds like it's ultimately in our own hands and what we want to do with it. And if we want to take the next step to empowering and learning and growing, self-development, professional development, the tools are there for you between what I heard you say, e-speakers and the network of support. And that's what places like the National Speakers Association is. I know that and just kind of empowering yourself and learning, there's also Speakers Academy, and Speakers Academy is something that you've been involved with in the past. We have this year Eric Aroka, who's our president, and Mike Lejeune, who's our past president, instructing and leading. And what's your experience with Speakers Academy?
I have participated as a faculty member in several speakers academies, and it is always so fulfilling for me to see the light bulb go off for people who have come to NSA. They're excited, they want to build a speaking business, and we know we have our chapter meetings every month, and you get a little bit of a piece of the puzzle, every month. But when you go through a speakers academy, I love watching people go, I have this aha about my branding, I have this aha about my message, I have this aha about how to craft my message. And so the Speakers Academy, I believe, is like this accelerator that is so powerful. And I love watching people grow in that accelerated pace and then write me letters and emails later telling me how quickly they built their business and how things have just like opened up for them and have moved forward in a powerful way for them. And just being a part of a chapter, I could not imagine being a speaker without being a member of a chapter or being a member of the National Speakers Association. And it is so powerful to be able to do this life and do this business with people that you care about, that support you, and who you get to learn so much from. This is probably the most supportive association and organization I've ever been a part of. I'm a part of different organizations, but NSA, we are truly a family, and I am so thankful that I found them. My thought when I went to my first NSA conference was, I've found my people.
I love it. I love it. So, as a supporter and a member of your local chapter, but how has this community supported your growth? And I know your program is coming up on the 17th of November. It's called Quantum Leap Your Speaking Business to the Next Level. Turn your expertise into a highly profitable certification program in 90 days or less. So, that sounds like a jam-packed program. So just a highlight of what people can expect of your program?
Absolutely. So if you're speaking, you probably have a speech. If you are a coach, you probably have a coaching system. And if you are an author, you probably have written a book, right? Well, most of us, if we've written a book, if we have a coaching system, or if we're a speaker, we typically have something that we've discovered that is a path to transformation. We have some wisdom or some process that we walk people through to help them experience transformation and breakthroughs. Working with John Maxwell, I created my own certification program. And that's what actually inspired me to say yes when I was tapped on the shoulder to say, hey, Lethia, would you come help us with our marketing with John Maxwell? It's because I'd already started creating a course on how to turn your expertise into a certification program. And I realized that working with John Maxwell would give me even more experience on how to do it at a bigger level. And so I'm excited now to bring that knowledge to the world.
We are so excited to be able to see that. And then also on top of that, we're extra excited to be able to just have this experience with you. And I really genuinely appreciate your time and just letting us hear your story, because it's impactful and it definitely shows perseverance. It shows resiliency. My motto is do it, improve it. And you definitely have a do it, improve it mindset. Thank you so much for sharing this journey with us. We look forward to seeing you. Until then, I'm signing off. And Lethia, any last words on how we can connect with you?
Yes, on the screen, you see Let's Chat with LethiaOwens.com will give you access to my calendar if you want to schedule a meeting with me. And otherwise, just visit me at LethiaOwens.com.
Wonderful. And those links will be in the captions below, so definitely check her out.